Hello, humane marketers. Sarah Znekrocha here. Welcome to another episode of the Humane Marketing Podcast, a place to be for the generation of marketers who cares. This is the show where we talk about marketing your business in a way that feels good to you, is aligned with your values, and also resonates more with your conscious customers because it's not pushy, ethical, and also beautiful. So if you're a regular here, you know that I'm organizing the conversations around the 7 Ps of humane marketing. And if you're new here and this is your first time, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. You may want to download your one-page marketing plan with the 7 Ps of humane marketing in the form of a mandala at humane.marketing/one page, the number one and page. So again, humane.marketing/one page. And with that, with no further ado, let's dive into today's conversation. Hey, Lisa, it's good to hang out with you.
Hi, Sarah. Glad to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. First time on the Humane Marketing Podcast. So excited. We talk regularly through the humane marketing community, and you've been in the program, so we know each other quite well, I feel. So it's always,
Yeah,
the conversations always go deeper when we know each other, right? So looking
indeed.
forward to talk about animals and leadership sessions, not sessions, what I want to say, lessons that we can learn from animals. So yeah, you hosted a session last year during our Humane Marketing Circle Expo with colleagues Rory and Aslam around this topic of what can we learn from animals for our leadership. So first, I'm curious to know, how did you come up with this topic? Like, why this topic? What fascinated you about this topic?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the theme was, kind of learning from nature is what we challenged ourselves. What would we bring to bear? Because each of us lives in a different country. We all spend a lot of time outside in nature. And I think the conversation initially started when Aslam was looking out her window in a London tower and saw the beautiful array of swans doing all sorts of amazing positions, looking so calm, looking so conscious, looking so just reflective and contemplative. And, it really caught her attention and she's been fascinated. So she's always telling us stories about the swans. But then at one point she said, you know what? I looked it up and really underneath the surface, the swans are pedaling furiously. I
Mm.
mean, it's chaotic, it's crazy, it's frenetic. And we said, wow, yet from the outside, it's so calm, so, beautifully patient. And said, what else? I mean, could we learn? Because we resonate with that. So many times we are frenetically moving and doing and scurrying to be ready.
Mm.
And yet, when it takes place, we're actually present and just being there is all that's really needed. And so it just spurred a level of curiosity and interest to investigate. So we each said, okay, pick a favorite animal. Let's talk about what are some of the leadership lessons we can learn. And I, living in Costa Rica and having sloths as neighbors, thought, why not? Like, that's like the opposite of the scurry, is the very slow and methodical and patient and present sloth. And so that's what I chose. And then Rory chose the elephant because it had such female leadership qualities that we all admired. And all three of us being female leaders were like, wow, that's fabulous. Let's tap into that. So it was a really curious exploration, and it's continued like the year since that has gone on. We have had various conversations and in-depth contemplations on what will we do with that next. And so we're working right now on what our next expo theme will be. And it's all around being. I think we will choose some animal influences as well. One of the ones that I am playing with right now is the monkey, because monkeys are also part of my neighborhood. collection of beautiful nature. And I love the curiosity element of monkeys. And so
Mm.
one of the elements that I'm playing with. But it was, a way to find a theme that we're all passionate about and, have it be a bit playful and engaging. And so in the workshop, we had our three animals, but we had many other people join and share their favorite animals and what lessons that they had learned from them. So I think there's a lot that we can pick up from our surroundings and our environment and nature, as you well know.
Yeah, yeah, it's so beautiful. And it reminded me of I just hosted a podcast uh with the title Is Slow Business More Humane? With my friend Andy Mort, and this he calls himself a slow business coach or a slow coach, and so it just reminded me of you and the sloths, and so it's so controversial, right, to bring slowness into business, and so it takes well, if it takes courage to say, well, actually, I do want to, make it slower, and so yeah, I'm just curious what kind of things you shared around the sloth and what qualities you appreciate from the sloth.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Andy because I got to that part in your book and I love the reference and the connection to the sloth and going slower, going deeper. That's been a big, big journey of mine, especially in the last couple years. I left the corporate world 8 years ago after a 25-year run, and now working with more small and medium businesses. I am finding that being conscious and really building the mental resilience to handle the ups and downs that are going on around us is such an important leadership skill. So, from the sloth perspective, they're very, very intentional. Like they
Mhm.
usually come down from the tree once a month. Um,
Wow, it's
yeah,
amazing. Just
yeah.
once a
So
month.
they have to plan really, really well, and they're very slow in their pace, and they're very conscientious because they can't move very fast. They have to be very careful as they plan their moves to avoid being, attacked by predators or any other danger in the system. They have to find their food very strategically. So they're very curious, very methodical, very patient, and they're very reflective. So all those qualities make for handling our crazy, chaotic world in a more kind, gentle, patient, and contemplative way, I would say. Um, one of the, I wrote a chapter in the book, Leading with Self-Awareness last year. And one of the stories that I highlighted is that, often we open doors. The chapter is called, Opening Doors to Discover Me. But often we open doors and we have no idea what we're entering into. And that ability to be patient, to be present, to be calm, to be curious is such a beautiful gift to discover what opportunities lie ahead. And so I'm a big believer in creating the spaciousness to allow that perspective to show up. And it's not so easy. Like I'm a recovering corporate A-level, executive for many, many, many years. It took some real life changes and choices to put that first and foremost in my perspective.
Mm.
Um, yeah, yeah,
And it's
it's
such
a
a big topic, right, of the Business Like We're Human book. It's like the and I only remember one line from your case study when you went through the Marketing Like We're Human program. You said the depth was always there, but it took this program or the pausing to discover it or rediscover it, right? And so that's what we do when we create the spaciousness and we are sloth-like. We probably another thing is like from the outside looking in, the sloth looks like, well, it's just a lazy couch potato. But actually, there's probably, yeah, like you said, a lot of planning, a lot of deep thinking, a lot of strategizing that goes on that we don't see from the outside looking in.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
the sloth has partnerships
Mm,
with all sorts of other animals that support their ecosystem. And so
Mm,
they don't, even though they seem very solo animals, they actually weave a set of strategic partnerships that help them thrive. And
mm,
sometimes that's not present, like you can't see that from the
mhm,
outside. But yeah, there's a lot of depth to that choice. And for me, another big turning point was having a significant accident. So I had a surfing accident
mm,
where it kind of took me off the roadmap for 3 months and, a healing journey of 1 year. That process of having to slow down and start over and rebuild was, tremendously insightful. It was hard. It was super, super difficult and painful, and all of the challenges that come along with injury and recovery. Yet it was super profound for me to rediscover what was most valuable to me. So to reconnect with my values, it was the time when I was rebuilding my business after a big transition, and a super important gift that
yeah.
I can clearly see. During the process it was challenging for sure, and now looking back I think it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that often our body kind of needs to give us this, yeah,
Wake up
this
call
wake
of
up
sorts.
call. Yeah.
Indeed.
If we
Indeed.
don't hear it ourselves. Another thing that comes to mind, and you mentioned that you're living in Costa Rica. From the outside looking in, we have this idea of Costa Rica being, yeah, a different culture, a kind of more outgoing culture, probably a culture that is not as money and profit and productivity driven as maybe, some of our Western cultures. Is that the case? And when you moved to Costa Rica, has something changed already just in that move for you?
For sure, for sure. So it's a quite a different culture from the United States that I moved from 17 years ago. So
Mm,
it's well indoctrinated in me, the pura vida lifestyle,
mhm,
living a pure life. For sure, the culture is slower. It's more family oriented.
mhm,
It's, be first and then do second, very
right,
opposite of the United States and the life that I had lived before I came to Costa Rica. There's certainly challenges. The infrastructure, the bureaucracy, I mean, process and operational efficiency is not a strength in Costa Rica.
right.
It's a beautiful small country, and the nature is spectacular, and it's ever present wherever you are in the country. So yeah, that slowing down to adapt to a very different culture and a different system was, a jolt to my nervous system for sure. And, it took years, but I'd probably say 2 or 3 years later, I think I kind of wove into the groove. Having children and adopting to their schedules and all of that is a great assimilation strategy for moving to a new country. So that was a
Mm,
great asset as well. But yeah, I mean, the things that I appreciate about the slower pace and the higher quality of life and, security and just nature at your doorstep is, well built into my routines.
mm,
From a daily perspective, I get up and I usually go for a walk. And, I can take 3 steps out my door and be in beautiful nature, which I appreciate. And, the weather's temperate, so, I can put a t-shirt and shorts on and head out any time of the year. I love that too. But one of the things that I have realized as I have, kind of cultivated my career, because I have clients globally and I travel around the world, is that when I come back home, there's just like a sigh and a deep, breath that I take, that I kind of take it back in, and I miss it. I truly do miss it. One of the ways recently, just in the last year, I've started doing retreats for women here in Costa Rica. I have my second one coming up in September 28th to October 3rd. And it's recharge. It's
mm,
recharge for mindful women. And the idea is, how can you pour into yourself as you pour into everybody else in all aspects of your life? Because I find we women professionals, especially, extend ourselves and stretch ourselves very thin. And
Right.
so I have found on a daily basis how to recharge, but I think a lot of women struggle to do that really well. And so offering a week away to indulge in beautiful nature and feed you, your soul, heart, mind, and body is an excursion and experience that is a beautiful thing to offer.
Yeah, when people ask me what works in marketing right now, I always say beauty, nature,
Mhm.
self-care. Those are the things that people crave right now. So yeah, if having something like that to offer is amazing. And I was just thinking how similar it is with me arriving in Sicily because we have a place in Sicily and it's kind of very similar, it's like it's chaotic in terms of administration and laws and everything like that. And yet it's such a different lifestyle. Like it's all about, like you said, family, friends, good food. That's what matters to people there, right? And then the work comes second. And I remember now we have our own car there, but we used to have a rental car and then arriving at the airport and then having to rent the car. At the beginning, the first few times we went, I was like so anxious and nervous because it took them forever to set up this rental car. It was like an hour of paperwork and everything was in paper still. Like, I'm like,
Wow.
come on, can't you? And then eventually I just kind of like laughed at myself. I'm like, oh, look at you, the Swiss who's like, oh, work, work, work. No, you have arrived. This is it. Take it slow, right? And
Indeed.
it's interesting that you also get that experience of just breathing out when you get back home and you're like, ah, I made it home. I can be calm and relaxed now. Yeah.
In-
Another thing that I'm thinking of in relation to Costa Rica is that at the last Inner Development Goals summit they actually brought Costa Rica as an example because you guys use the Inner Development Goals on a national level. And that's unheard of, right? It's such a huge testimony to what matters, even at the government level. So I'm just curious yeah, how that's being visible in Costa Rica, if at all. Like, do they talk about it?
Absolutely. There's quite a marketing campaign, The Essential of Costa Rica, and Christina Figueres, whom you know from all of that work around IDG and just kind of how do we create a better world and how do we
Hmm.
protect what we have. I mean, she's been very, very vocal and very visible in the country, but we have, great resources for such a tiny country in the world. And the preservation of that is a utmost priority in the
Mm,
country. There's great focus, there's great resources, there's great knowledge and commitment
mm,
to maintaining that. So yes, it's, very important and built into the systemic structure of all of Costa Rica. So
yeah.
very, very important.
We talk mainly about animals, but in the Business Like We're Human book, I just talk about nature in general and talk about some of the ways that I've integrated nature into my business. How you mentioned walks. Is there any other ways that you even bring it into client work or just kind of like how you yeah, integrate nature and animals and other living beings on this planet into your work.
No, I do. A lot of times when I am meeting with clients in quarterly workshops, we build time in nature into it. It's kind of a way to breathe. It's kind of a way to decompress. It's kind of a way to kind of go deeper from within. And it connects teams powerfully. I
Hmm.
mean, greater creativity, greater resourcefulness, greater connection, building vulnerability amongst the team happens so much faster when you're outside than when you're in a conference room or in your, office meeting room. Um, I'm a big advocate of exercise too. And so a lot of times with my clients on a one-on-one basis, we'll talk about their routines. Like, how do you build movement into your routine as a way to kind of process, as a way to feed, your soul, as a way to be healthy as well. And a lot of times that involves being outside in nature. I'm a big fan of awe walks, AWE. And so I spent a week with Dr. Keltner.
Mhm.
He leads the Better Services Science Center at University of Berkeley in California. And he has researched awe for like 30 years. He has a fascinating book called Awe. He's got several books, and it's amazing how there's so many sources. He has like 8 principles of awe, nature being one of them, but collective everescence, like
Mm.
the
That's my
time.
favorite too. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a beautiful thing. And so often when I do retreats with clients, that ability to be disconnected from the workspace, but yet together is that collective everessence. It just brings out the best in people and, it really fuels creativity and innovation. It's a super powerful force. And I
Mhm.
find combining that in nature is spectacular. So yeah,
Yeah,
I would,
especially in a place where, you can always go outside. So why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you
yes,
use
yes.
nature as a classroom? Yeah,
And
so
it doesn't matter the weather. I mean, I have clients in all different atmospheres and climates, and bundle up if it's cold. It doesn't
yeah,
matter. Get
yeah,
outside and experience that. It's a beautiful resource available to us at any moment.
yeah. If you had to give like one advice from the sloth to the business owners, entrepreneurs who are listening, what would that be?
Yeah, move slower.
Mm,
Just move slower. Take more in. I love that sloths are super observant.
mm,
And that's part of their kind of maintaining their lifestyle and being a survival skill. I think we as humans go too fast and we build things in, like busyness is a factor of success, and I think that's part of the paradigm that you're working on in Business Like We're Human. It's important to me too. How do you take things more slowly and actually more richly connect and generate greater impact? I mean, there's not a correlation for me on generating impact is my passion and my purpose and my work. And there's no correlation with going fast with that.
mm,
Actually, it defeats the purpose. And so the slower you go, actually, generally, the better results you can attain.
mm.
So I
Yeah,
would say go slower, be more observant, and really focus in on what's most important.
yeah, and go deeper with your work as well because you're going slower. Yeah,
Absolutely. So
yeah,
often when leaders come to me, they want to scale their businesses super fast. I mean,
yeah.
that's always the desire. And I say,
Mm,
okay, what have you tried before? What's worked? What hasn't worked? Um, and I always say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So let's try a different trajectory. So I spend quite a bit of time with clients in teams because I work with founders and leaders and their leadership teams to kind of build that vulnerability, that deep connection, that trust, so that then when they journey together, they can go further, not necessarily faster, but it often happens that it happens faster because they have a very profound, deeply connected, and well aligned structure and path to journey together. But that human connection and really building the strong, resilient team is always the first step. And
mm,
it amazes my clients. It continues to delight me at how powerful a leadership quality that can be to achieving whatever they set out to achieve. And often, while their initial goals are, I want to, hit a bigger number, I want to hit it sooner, I want to contribute more financials to the book, they very quickly identify impact goals as well. Like, what's the difference in the world I want to make? And how will the success of my business make the world I live in better? And how do I contribute to that? Which is, so rewarding for me.
yeah. And you basically hold the space to help them slow down, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the guide on the journey. Indeed.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah,
it's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being the sloth and being the role model as it again, I think it takes a little bit of courage to say,
absolutely.
there's no shame in being the sloth. I want to be the sloth. I want you to understand the power of being the sloth. And that's exactly the role models that we were missing up till now because look where it got us. And so, yeah, I applaud you for being the sloth and sharing what we can learn from these from nature around us and animals and everything. So
Thank you,
please,
Sarah. I
please
think
do share where people can find you. Sorry.
I was just going to add one thing. One of the questions I always ask, and this was at the end of my chapter, is what are you courageously willing to say yes to and
Mm,
not know what's on the other side?
hmm.
But to do that, you have to courageously say, what am I willing to quit
Yeah.
or say no to allow the spaciousness to kind of enter into the unknown.
Yeah.
Um, to your question, where you can find more information about me is my website, which is www.lisafoulger, Foulger.com. Yep. And I've got
Wonderful.
information on the Verdasana Costa Rica retreat and all the different offerings I do around scaling your mindset, to scaling your leadership, to scaling your team, and ultimately scaling your business.
Mm, wonderful. I love how you combine scaling with such a mindful approach and slow approach, right? Because to me, it's a perfect example of understanding what people want and then giving them what they need. And so what they want is to scale and fast and hustle. And then you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, we're gonna get to what you want, but we're gonna do it in a slightly different way. So yeah, I love that. Love that.
It's
And I also look forward to the next session at the expo and continue our animal journey. So excited for that.
Thank you. We're excited as well. And I think we'll even expand beyond animals into nature. But yeah, there's a lot to explore around being, and
Mm,
it's a fascinating topic to explore.
yeah. I'm actually just off to a trip to Egypt and find out what we can learn from ancient civilizations,
Oh,
whether they were human or not human, but just kind of like tapping into the ancient wisdom as well. So I'll
very interesting.
report back.
Yes, enjoy fully. That sounds fascinating.
Thank you. Thanks so much for watching and being part of a generation of marketers who cares for yourself, for your clients, and for the planet. We really are change makers before we are marketers. So go ahead, be the change you want to see in the world. And I hope to see you again next week. Take care.